hold this title in the next few weeks here. But tonight, we're going to be honoring not the roller coasters, but we're going to be honoring those rides, attractions, parks, and elements that make the entire amusement park, theme park experience well-rounded. Everyone loves roller coasters. Danny, I go to parks for roller coasters. You go to parks for roller coasters, other stupid stuff too sometimes. But we're going to be talking about some of these other things that really excite people about theme parks, dark rides, drop rides, all these great events. Now, Danny, what makes this special is each and every year, the Ride Warrior Choice Awards focuses in on different topics. Yes, we have some repeat customers every now and then, but I think this year's set of awards are really interesting because we got a good mix of old stuff, new stuff, and some returning categories as well. So, Danny, why don't you give us the lowdown on what we're going to be looking at here tonight?
Yeah, I mean, there were several years ago, the Thrilling 32 and what you ran as the Golden Loop Awards were separate things. We merged them together into the Ride Warrior Choice Awards, and the Golden Loop sort of became this general awards category, and we kept the Thrilling 32 as is with the roller coaster rankings and the bracket challenge and all that fun stuff. And we like to do 10 to 12 awards each year in those general awards. And a few of them are the same year after year. Your favorite ride, most anticipated new ride for the upcoming season. But then we like to change up those other categories every year. And we have a few repeats every year. But we like to change it up because so many other awards give out the same awards every year. And it's the same parks and the same rides that win them year after year. So we like to change it up a little bit. And this year is special because, like you said, we're actually bringing back 4 or 5 categories that we've done in the past but haven't done for maybe a few years. So we're going to see if our voters, having ridden new rides and been to new parks, and some new rides have opened in the last couple of years, we're going to see if some opinions have changed over the last couple of years.
Absolutely. So we have a number of different categories here, Danny. So you're going to bring us in, I think, right, to each of the categories. So why don't you start us off here?
Yeah, so the way we're going to do this, I think we got 12 awards that we're going to announce tonight, and we're just going to read off the top 3, really, in each category. I guess we'll just introduce what the category is, and we'll read off who the winner is, and then we'll go second and third place after that. We're not going to take too much time here tonight, and some of these, there's not going to be a whole lot of discussion, but a few of these might be interesting to talk about for a few minutes. So we'll go right in the order that you guys voted. We'll start with your favorite new attraction from 2019, and we changed this one up a little bit because typically these are always roller coasters, right? But we thought that we would do non-roller coasters because really we're going to find out what your favorite new roller coaster was by virtue of doing the coaster rankings. So this makes it a bit more challenging because you got flat rides and some dark rides, and it's sort of open up to interpretation. But the Ride Warrior Choice Awards have voted their favorite new attraction for 2019 with 29% of the vote, Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. And we allowed people to vote if they had ridden it at either park. So 29% of the voters said the Millennium Falcon ride was their favorite new attraction. We did actually get a handful of votes for Rise of the Resistance from a few people who rode it, but we figured that we would leave that for next year since most people are not going to ride it till 2020. In second place, the Kingsmill Antique Autos from Kings Island, the new antique cars. And in third place was the Calico River Rapids at Knott's Berry Farm.
Yeah, Rise of the Resistance, I think it's going to be a strong contender. I think it's a good choice moving it to the 2020 awards, not the 2019 awards is what we're giving out here for the 2019 season. But so Millennium Falcon, mixed reviews on it though, really. But I think there's overall a smaller class of really exciting new non-coaster rides this year. So Millennium Falcon seems like a pretty fun ride. It has some criticisms there, but I think it's probably the most advanced of all the rides.
Yeah, I would say so. And the ride that I voted for, not in the top three, and it did get a handful of votes, but not enough to be in the top three, was that wonderful shooting dark ride I talked about from Walibi, Belgium, the Popcorn Revenge.
Yeah.
So that got my vote, and I was not alone. There were quite a few people who voted for that one. So, but those are your top three for a favorite new attraction of 2019. And a lot of those people who voted for Millennium Falcon, some of them voting for Rise of the Resistance as their most anticipated ride for this upcoming season.
Well,
So,
that makes sense.
next year might be a whole new ball game. That might be locked in right there, but we will see. So we'll move right along to your favorite shooting dark ride, and again, this is one that we had done a few times in the past and hadn't done the last couple of years. So here it is again. So in 2019, the Ride Warriors have voted their favorite shooting dark ride as Justice League Battle for Metropolis, was 31% of the vote. And again, we didn't specify what park. We just basically said at Six Flags Park. So I think that sort of helps Justice League here. In second place, maybe a surprise second place here, but one that I very much enjoyed from Phantasialand in Germany is Maus au Chocolat, which is a ride that gets rave reviews from a lot of our European voters and our European viewers. People always have great things to say about that. I thought it was a wonderful ride. And in third place was Wonder Mountain's Guardian. A little surprising to me that one comes in third.
Well, what Wonder Mountain came out real strong, and I don't know if it's withheld the test of time. Cedar Fair's kind of backed off on a lot of those Trio Tech dark rides. They are redoing. Knott's Berry Farm did announce that they are redoing Journey to the Iron Reef or Voyage to the Iron Reef.
Voyage to the, yep. They are redoing that.
So they're redoing that one completely and making it into more of a family-friendly event. Mm-hmm. Based on an old dark ride they used to have there with some characters. So we'll see what happens there. If things are going to change, because I don't know if that's a shooting one still. I think it is, but I won't swear to it. That it's still going to be shooting.
I'm kind of in the dark, no pun intended. kind of in the dark. I didn't even mean to do that. I'm kind of in the dark when it comes to that. So, but we'll see. I mean, historically, Men in Black has done well in that category. Yeah, Voyage to the Iron Reef actually had done well in the past. But Wonder Mountain's Guardian has that extra, little bit of spice to it too, because it changes over to Wonder Mountain Zombies during haunt season. So that is a little bit of added extra appeal. I think the Zombies is actually a little bit of cooler film. And certainly the surprise at the end of the ride is much better in the Zombies version.
Absolutely.
So let's move on to the favorite non-shooting dark ride. And this has always been a hotly contested category when it's been in the awards. It's always been a battle of two or three things. And this year, in 2019, the Ride Warriors have voted the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror as their favorite non-shooting dark ride from Disney's Hollywood Studios there, followed very closely in second place by Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey from Universal's Islands of Adventure. Those are always the top two, and they're always vying for the top spot there, so they come in 1-2 once again. But entering in third place, which I don't know if this ride was open last time we had this awards, or if it was, it had just opened. In third place is Flight of Passage, one that you're a very big fan of.
Well, and this is one where I think the voters got it wrong. I'll come out and say it. I think Flight of Passage is one of the best theme park rides anywhere. You can shooting dark ride, non-shooting dark ride, roller coaster, you can throw them all in a hat. And I think Flight of Passage is one of the best you're going to find. It's for me, Flight of Passage is up there with Voyage and Steel Vengeance as if I'm going to ride something, those are going to be the three of the things I'm going to ride. Harry Potter, I think was a fantastic ride when it first opened. I don't know if the rewritability on Harry Potter, because in subsequent visits, I've kind of become less and less enthused by it. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. It was really cool when you first did it. And then I don't know if the tech has really held up with the big giant screens and everything. I know they've added 3D on some of the versions, correct?
Well, on Forbidden Journey.
Yeah.
So the Hollywood version opened with 3D.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's been reverted. They or not. They did announce at one point that they were going to upgrade the Orlando version, and then they elected not to.
Well, they upgraded the projectors, but they did not add 3D.
Right. They were originally going to do 3D, I think. I'm sure someone
Yeah.
will correct us in the comments if that's wrong. But then they said that they weren't doing 3D, but they were still updating the projectors. I'm not up to snuff on some of those updates.
And then I'll be honest with you, Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, I think it's a really good ride. I don't think it's a number one ride. Dark Ride, I think the Dark Ride portions of it are they do some cool tricks here and there.
It's got the high thrill aspect that really kind of pushes it over the top.
It does. It being a drop tower essentially, makes it a little more exciting. I just think Flight of Passage, and maybe it's a case of so many people aren't willing to wait in the 3-hour line. So,
well, that might turn you off from a lot of rides, Andy.
Well, because you haven't ridden Flight of Passage. There's a whole bunch of people that I know haven't ridden Flight of Passage. So I still think that there's this is a category to watch in the future.
Yeah,
I still think there's a lot of movement that's going to be had, especially with Rise of the Resistance too, because that is
right.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens between this ride and Rise of the Resistance in the future here.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. Let's move on to another category that we've put in the last couple of years here. Your favorite ride teaser campaign for an upcoming ride. So this is your favorite 2020 ride teaser campaign. Now, unlike past years where there's been at least one or two really good ones, this year we had a couple of okay ones, but there wasn't really one that sort of stuck out to me.
I think in general, if I had to make a statement, I felt like all the teaser campaigns were kind of just launched at the very end.
Yeah.
For all of them. And it was kind of like, I don't know. I won't say afterthought because people put time and effort into these things. I just think they were launched too late and then just didn't have the oomph that some other
Banshee went on for months and months. I mean, Steel Curtains was a nice puzzle. Copperhead Strikes went on for months and months and months.
We did criticize Copperhead for maybe going on too long.
Right, we did. Although I preferred the Copperhead one over most of the ones that we saw this year. The Twisted Timbers one was really the good one from the last couple of years, I thought, with the different images. But so I was really interested to see the results on this one. And the Ride Warriors have voted their favorite 2020 ride teaser campaign as Orion's from Kings Island. 35% of the vote. And again, as we suspected, a very close race here. In second place, 28% was actually Jersey Devil, Six Flags Great Adventure. And then 23% of the vote in third was Pantheon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. So those three campaigns eating up the majority of the votes.
Well, Orion was a pretty decent campaign. Like I said, it was done really late. They started throwing up all the posters of past rides that hinted towards, a star theme. That was really cool. Six Flags Great Adventure did a nice job, putting out riddles on Twitter. And then Pantheon, I think, had the longest campaign out of these three, where over a series of weeks they put out, different flags with the different symbols and the different gods. So all three were interesting. But I think in general, even from, YouTube views and everything, I think in general, people have been more excited about other things too.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair statement. I would have leaned toward, I actually can't remember which one I voted for. It was a while back, but Orion and Pantheon were the two that stuck out to me as my favorites. Pantheon, I think, would have been my favorite if, Pantheon teased some really cool stuff, and we talked about the possibilities of it, and then there wasn't a big payoff at the end, right? And Orion was one of those things. We knew what the name was probably going to be, that we knew the layout, so it didn't need to exceed our expectations because there was no buildup, whereas Williamsburg, we didn't really know what we were going to get. And it seemed like that teaser, there was never really a big payoff in the Pantheon teaser. But the campaign itself was really good, but it really needed that little bit of oomph at the end.
Yeah.
Whether it was with a theme element or something else. The ride looks great, and we'll see later on if people are looking forward to that more than any other ride. We'll see. But, we'll see what those results are. Shall we move on to favorite drop tower ride?
Yes.
And this is, again, another one that we've brought back here. And the top three, I don't think is any real surprise here. Winning in a runaway here this year again is Falcon's Fury from Busch Gardens, Tampa, and that has seemed to be sort of the go-to answer for favorite drop tower ride here the last several years, and it is certainly one of the best.
Well, there's no question about that. That is the best drop tower ride. Like, there is no question about that. I don't think there's any question in my mind whatsoever.
Yeah, and then in second place is Zumanjaro Drop of Doom, the one that's on the side of King Dakar there, Six Flags Great Adventure. And then in third place from Six Flags Magic Mountain is Lex Luthor Drop of Doom. Now, I actually like Lex Luthor for a couple of reasons. One, the height, but also the fact that the tower shakes when the coaster car comes up. That's a really unique thing. Even Zumanjaro doesn't do anything like that. I still think Lex Luthor is my favorite. You drop for so long on that ride. It feels like forever that you're dropping. I really like Lex Luthor. The other one that tends to get a lot of votes, hasn't cracked the top three, but is actually the one at Marineland, the Skyscraper. Yeah. It's a 300-foot tower on top of a 150-foot hill overlooking Niagara Falls. Great view. It's a combo tower, so it's a shot and a drop. It's kind of got a little bit of everything on that one. So that's another one that does pretty well, usually year after year. All right, now we're going to move into some new ones here that we added for this year. We're going to move on to favorite inversion element. Now, Andy, this is one that you and we were a little hotly contested on this one because we kind of chose a few that we wanted to see in to settle once and for all. What's better? We're trying to settle one in particular, one long time debate.
We're no closer here either, so let's not pretend.
Well, and actually earlier today, I went back and watched Manta versus Raptor version 1, where we argued for many minutes over the pretzel loop versus the Cobra roll. Many, many times we have argued Batwing or Cobra roll on the inverted coasters. And we put all of those choices in this category, hoping that one of them would come out triumphant. And instead, the Ride Warriors have voted their favorite inversion element as the zero-G stall.
Yeah, yeah. And a zero-G stall is a lot of fun. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it is a lot of fun.
It is. It's not my personal favorite element, which comes in second. The pretzel loop comes in at second place, 25% of the vote. And third, by one vote, Andy, is the Batwing.
Batwings are terrible.
Beating out the Cobra roll by one vote.
Batwings are terrible. When you think of Vortex, they tore down the whole ride just to get rid of the Batwing.
Oh boy! Oddly enough, does Kings Island not have a ride with a zero-G stall or a pretzel loop?
No,
I don't think they do.
No. They do have
now. If they are,
they have a bigger Batwing now.
Yes, they do. All right, so that one was a lot of fun to see how people voted on that one. We've thrown this one in for our buddy the Water Parker, favorite water park.
Oh, okay.
You and I don't have much. You and I don't have much experience here. We have about as much experience as what you just said there, which is nothing.
Yeah. That's So let's see who won then, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. I don't have much else to say. Favorite water park in a landslide victory this year is Splash and Safari, Santa Claus, Indiana. And I think it's sort of the go-to for the coaster people, which we know we have a lot of because that's the only water park a lot of coaster people go to because of the Hollywood Nights event.
Well, it's also in the theme park, too, so it's not like you have to go very far from the
Right.
roller coaster to get there.
No, that's very true. You can ride Voyage and then be on Wildebeest a few minutes later if you really want to.
Quick change
Yeah.
on the way.
Yeah, you could, and maybe some people don't. I don't know.
Well, you never know.
Second place is actually Universal's Volcano Bay. That was a surprise to me. I did not expect that to come in second place. And then third place was Schlitterbahn, which is sort of the water park. People will tell you Schlitterbahn is the runaway answer, right?
Yeah, I think Schlitterbahn has always been a big answer. I wonder if that'll change now that Cedar Fair is in charge. And people might like Schlitterbahn for, other reasons or whatever. But I think they have a solid water park lineup. You'd have to talk to Water Parker. I'm just saying words at this point.
Yeah, Water Parker, you can school everybody in the comments if you want to vote for like the beach or something.
The
that's
beach. The beach is closed, Danny. Closed for good, I think.
Well, it's closed a couple times.
Yeah. So it won't be the first time, but possibly the last time.
Third time's the charm. It's the Conneaut Lake of water parks, I guess.
Yeah, true.
All right. Here's a new one we put in. So last year, I think we had favorite roller coaster state, and our European voters and listeners said, well, some of us haven't been to the United States. How could we possibly vote? So this year we threw them a bone and we said favorite country or favorite foreign country, or foreign country that you most want to visit. So we made our American voters and North American voters vote for countries outside of the United States that they want to go to. And of course, we actually got a few of our European voters vote for the United States or Canada, say that they wanted to come over here. So that's pretty cool of them. Winning the foreign country that you most want to visit for theme parks with 43% of the vote is Germany. And I don't think that's a terrible surprise. In talking about the Europe trip this last year, I mean, Germany certainly has a large number of coasters and some great theme parks, and also some very high quality rides and attractions, roller coasters and non-roller coasters. So I don't think that comes as a big surprise there.
Not at all.
Coming in second place, maybe this is a surprise with 23% of the vote was Japan. Does that surprise you?
No, not really. Japan has, I tell you what, Japan has maybe a collection of really unique roller coasters when you start.
It's got a Manta clone.
That's negatives is negative points for that. But it has like Ika and it has Flying Dino. It has I'm out. That's all I got.
That's all you're left with right there. I mean, Steel Dragon 2000.
Those two by themselves are Hakugai now. So that's
right.
Exciting.
You've got Hokugai, you've got Steel Dragon 2000, you've got Flying Dinosaur, Hollywood Dream, which is also over there. A Universal Thunder Dolphin is that Intamin coaster. There at the mall. I mean, they've got the Dompa, I think, is another one that a lot of people really like. So there's a good number of rides there that seem very interesting. And then in third place, which is close to the top of my list of countries that I have not been to, Sweden. And that one to me is sort of the country that I want to go to next. Wildfire is there at Kolmarden, but then you've also got Liseberg and Gronelund, which have some pretty good
lots of mysteries at Liseberg too that you can finally discover. So let's find out what the hell is Liseberg.
Well, I mean, we will finally find out what the hell is Liseberg.
Find out what the hell that is.
I mean, Liseberg, obviously the two standouts for me. I want to ride Balder, which is in our Thrilling 32 this year, and I also want to ride Helix, also in the Thrilling 32. Two Thrilling 32 rides, and the former home of one Cannonen.
Yes, well, Cannonen, we think we've located Cannonen. It's out in Iowa, so...
yeah, we think...
Now, Danny, I voted for none of these three. I voted for Australia.
Yes, you did. And Australia, I think, came in fifth overall. Quite some votes for Australia as well.
Yeah, Australia seems like a pretty cool place. DC Rivals looks like an interesting ride. They have... who cares? They got... Well, Warner Brothers Movie World looks like a pretty cool place with the characters and everything that's going on there. And plus, the most beautiful people in the world live in Australia. Yeah. So why would you not want to go there?
Well, I guess you want to wait till the fires die down, maybe.
I think they have. I don't know. We've lost that story though. I actually I want to go research this because I haven't heard. Like, is everyone okay over there now? Australian fires.
I think they're sort of dying down a little bit.
I hope so because I want to go. So
yeah.
The rain has put out a lot of the fires. So
okay.
Thank you. Weather.
Yes, yes. Weather is good. Weather is a good thing.
Weather.
Thank you, weather. All right. So shall we move on to a couple? Again, some new ones we put in this year. A lot of new ones. We have always done most overrated, most underrated coaster. We did away with those this year, and we went to something new. We had you vote on your favorite roller coaster name. Now, unlike other categories, this was a complete write-in. You could pick anything you want. Most of the other categories you also could, but we sort of put in 7 or 8 suggestions or some of the most popular and then offered you a write-in option. This was a complete blank slate. You could vote for anything you wanted. And the Ride Warriors have voted their favorite roller coaster name as, get ready for the surprise, Andy, Steel Vengeance.
That's, to me, it is a bit of a surprise because I like the name Steel Vengeance. I don't know if I love the name Steel Vengeance.
Here's why I think it won.
Because it's the best roller coaster in the world?
Well, that very well could be the case. But when you think about that, the fact that it was Millennium Force for years, right? Like that was the ride. By most awards, that was the ride. And then there was the debate of Millennium Force Maverick, and then Fury came onto the scene, right? And then Europa Park took away the golden ticket from Cedar Point. And Cedar Point for a few years didn't have any awards that it was winning. And this ride came onto the scene, and like the teaser video said, they're here and they're back with a Steel Vengeance. Steel Vengeance perfectly describes not only what the ride is, it's a steel ride sort of getting its revenge on the old wooden coaster mean streak, but it's also taking back one of the most important awards in the theme park industry as Best Steel Coaster. Now, it won the Thrilling 32 last year. It's got a chance to maybe win it again this year. And by most people's accounts, it's the best steel roller coaster in the world. So it has gotten revenge on all those other rides that have sort of put the award in doubt for a Millennium Force or a Maverick or even a Magnum from way back in the day. So I think it's the purpose behind the name that is what makes people vote for this. Coming in second place is sort of a more classic name, which is the Beast at Kings Island, which is that classic, iconic name. That's the type of name that I would expect to see on a list like this. And then number 3, I think might be coming in third place, might be my favorite of the top 3 here is Shivering Timbers, which I think is an excellent name.
Yeah, like Shivering Timbers is pretty cool just based on like what you do on the ride, because like you go up and down all those hills and there's a little bit of a shimmy there, not a whole lot. It's not like, toppling over or anything.
It's one of those things. There's always been this debate about what makes a good roller coaster name.
Yeah.
A good roller coaster name, certain people, like I think John Hildebrand said that it should be alive, it should be a creature that sort of breathes life into the ride, but it should also be descriptive of what the ride is doing, right? So Cheetah Hunt, I think, is a really good name. It describes what the ride is doing. It's like you're a cheetah hunting, in the woods or on the savannah, whatever it is. Shivering Timbers, I think, to me, that sounds intimidating. That I think imposes some fear in the rider. Timbers and the logo with the tall trees implies that it's very big. It's wood. That's exactly what it is. Shivering. It shakes. It jostles you around a little bit. It's got a little
vibrates.
It vibrates. I think there's all sorts of things in the name Shivering Timbers that perfectly describe what that ride is. And it's a damn good ride, as a wise man once said on this show. It's a damn good ride. So, I think we've got 3 good names here that came in the top 3.
Yeah, no, I like all 3 names. I think they're fine names. But the next one I think is more interesting.
Yes.
The favorite roller coaster logo.
Yeah, and this is sort of going back to our winner several years ago, the bracket challenge. Was it Eli? I think it was Eli. His choice for his appearance on the show for winning the Thrilling 32 was to help kick off the tournament of logos. So we did that 4 or 5 years ago. And this year we thought we would sort of return to that and just let people pick what their favorite logo was. Not do a bracket style thing. We would just let people pick their favorite logo. And Andy, the top 3 is a sweep for Kings Island. And we were afraid that this would happen. And maybe not afraid, but we said, Kings Island has a lot of good names and a lot of good logos. We threw out the possibility that it could potentially sweep the top 3, and it has. Now, coming in 3rd place is Diamondback. Coming in 2nd is the Beast. And coming in 1st for the favorite roller coaster logo this year is Banshee.
Yeah, that's not surprising. We have always said that Kings Island has really strong logos. Even when we did votes, we did a logo bracket a few years ago that you can find on COASTER-net. And on YouTube. We did a whole video pairing up different logos, and the Kings Island logos all did really, really well.
What ended up winning?
I think Banshee ended up winning. Which would fit with this. I won't swear to that.
I feel like it was either Banshee or Diamondback.
Yeah, I think one of those two won. I think it was Banshee in the end. Yeah. Banshee's logo is just so good. The colors are striking. The text is creative.
It's intimidating, just like the name, right? It strikes fear. It's got a beautiful big sign right there at the entrance.
And the character behind the text is cool, and you incorporate a little, loop into it as well in the tail, which adding that extra roller coaster element to it, I think is what really makes a good logo. Is when you can take a picture or something and add in the track, add in, and all 3 of these do that, if you notice that too. The Beast is right there in your face. It's got the wood track right there. But then Diamondback, I think it's always really cool that they made the B&M track into his tongue. Which I always thought.
That's why Diamondback is my favorite from an artistic standpoint here out of these 3. But I was going to bring that up if you didn't. The fact that, and they're subtle, right? So the loop is sort of the tail of the Banshee, and it's not in your face roller coaster track. The Beast, the focus is on the claws, right? But it's reaching out along the track, right? And it's got the claw marks on the word mark. And then Diamondback, the 2 fangs, the 2 fangs of the snake are coming out of the 2 letters. Like you said, the tongue is the coaster track, and the fact that the snake head is what the cars are, it perfectly parallels what the ride actually looks like.
Yeah.
So I think you made some great points there about all 3 of these.
Yeah, no, the logos here are very fine logos. And even in the park, Mystic Timbers is a solid logo.
Mystic Timbers wasn't far behind these 3. Yeah. I think Mystic Timbers might have been 5th.
Yeah, that's not surprising at all. Kings Island has always done a really, really good job with logos, maybe up until this year.
Well, yeah, I mean this one's a little bit.
This one's not knocking me out of the park, Danny.
It's a nice logo, but it's a little on the plain side.
It's a little on the plain side.
You don't get the coaster track subtlety in there. It's mostly just text. That's the other thing. Sometimes you get logos that are simply just text, right? And it just kind of looks cool. But these, and even Mystic Timbers, like you said, there's something, it's again, like what John Hildebrand said, for a good name, it's got to be alive. It's got to be a creature. Diamondback, you got the snake. Beast, you've got the claws. Whatever that thing is, you've got it there. Banshee is this wailing spirit. Even Mystic Timbers, which is sort of like Shivering Timbers, it gives it life through the logo by having the tree being a real life thing.
And that's where I kind of wish Orion might have had like a space shuttle as its logo, like a tricked out, space shuttle type thing, or had some sort of alien be part of it.
Yeah.
It's just stars and word mark, and I just think it's uninspired at some level, and I don't know if
it doesn't look bad. It just doesn't have the depth and the detail that some.
And I bought an Orion shirt, but I don't foresee myself. I don't see what else they're gonna do with that. Like
Right.
like it's gonna be a tough sell, I think, to find merchandise. Like if you just want a name, that's gonna be fine. But anything outside of that, and Cedar Fair has been doing a lot of that lately, is focusing more on the logo and the character than maybe the name itself.
Right.
So I'm curious to see what they're going to end up doing, and maybe they'll make some really cool stuff out of it. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see what happens. All right, we got two more here tonight, Andy, in the 2019 Ride Warrior Choice Awards here, the general awards category. And here's the big one, the favorite amusement or theme park. This is always a fun one. This is sort of the one that all the parks want to win. And Andy, we know our audience pretty well here, and we sort of kind of know how this one's gonna go every year. And the top three have been steady for several years in a row now in this poll. And running away with it here this year again is Cedar Point with nearly 50% of the vote. And I don't think that's a surprise at all, considering our audience and where our people are from. Coming in second place again for, I think, the third year in a row is Dollywood, Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. And coming in third place once again, like last year, is Europa Park in Rust, Germany.
Well, I can't disagree with these results. Dollywood is, I like Dollywood as a park. Their rides, I think there's a lot of comparisons between Dollywood and Europa in my mind.
And Silver Dollar City in fourth place, just below Europa Park.
And I could see that too. Dollywood has really good food. Dollywood has really good atmosphere. Dollywood has pretty decent rides. I don't put them like in out of this world amazing. The one park I will say that I think people are sleeping on, I say this all the time, Danny, people are sleeping on Busch Gardens Tampa, and maybe with the addition of Iron Gwazi and maybe a couple more coasters with the way SeaWorld's going lately, maybe people will start waking up. But Busch Gardens Tampa has wonderful atmosphere. You want to talk about other things to do, that safari ride out on the train is really fun to do. Falcon's Fury, one of the top flat rides in the world, as we've seen here tonight. Once Iron Gwazi opens, you have that serious headliner, hopefully that's what we're all hoping for, right? Is a really serious headliner there, followed up by a really great supporting cast with Kumba, Mantu, Shikra.
That's always been the criticism of Tampa, right? Like Tampa, the one criticism of the Tampa roller coaster lineup for many years was they didn't have the airtime coaster, right? I mean, you had Shikra. I mean, they had power coasters. They had Kumba, Mantu. Cheetah Hunt was kind of the closest you had to an airtime coaster. It has a few nice moments, but when you make the comparison to Busch Gardens Williamsburg, it has the hyper coaster. Now, there's varying opinions on Apollo's Chariot, but it has the airtime coaster, the airtime speed height coaster. So really, Tampa is finally getting that in Iron Gwazi. And there's a lot of people who love Kumba. There's a lot of people who love Mantu, but those two rides aren't sort of conducively loved by everybody. Everybody likes them, but some people haven't. Some people call them top 10, top 15 rides. Other people are like, oh, they're top 30, 40. Iron Gwazi is the chance for Busch Gardens Tampa to sort of emerge as the big top 10 coaster of the Busch Gardens chain, really.
And you want to talk atmosphere, the park has atmosphere up the wazoo.
Absolutely.
With having the zoo aspects, the theming of it, like they've done a pretty good job of making you feel like they've removed the Africa tag off of it, but they've done a pretty good job. So I'm hoping to see Busch Gardens Tampa maybe make a play on this list. You love Europa, people love Dollywood, but I think Tampa, people are sleeping on that park. That is a fine park. My second favorite park in the entire world. People are sleeping on that park. I don't know why they are.
Well, we'll see if Iron Gwazi has an effect on Busch Gardens Tampa next year in the awards. And that's a good transition into our last award of the night, which is the most anticipated ride for the upcoming season in 2020. And as we mentioned, Iron Gwazi certainly a contender perhaps for this award. I will say it was in the top three. Andy, the top three in alphabetical order here were Iron Gwazi, Orion, and Pantheon. Do you have a prediction as to what the order of those three were?
This one's going to be real tough because you have the Ohio aspect with Orion.
And a proven company and a sort of a proven method to build a really good
but nothing that Orion, at the same time, nothing that looks overwhelmingly unique or looks like a great ride. Don't get me wrong. Don't start up. It looks like a great ride, but nothing that's going to be world shaking or world shattering. Pantheon, Pantheon
Intamin been exciting, but who knows? Intamin's had issues in their bigger rides here lately.
I'll say all three of these rides have serious question marks next to them as to what the end result's going to be. I think Orion probably has the most known quantities of what you're going to get here. I think Iron Gwazi has the most hopeful quantities of if we can move anywhere near Steel Vengeance, that's going to be really good. But will Busch Gardens pull the trigger on that and actually do that? We've seen pictures of it. It's pretty much almost done, if not done completely now. And it's kind of, I don't know. I don't know just looking at it. You got to see that test.
And we still haven't seen like a POV or a rendering of anything. So it's really hard to judge. I mean, it's hard to judge on a POV anyways. But, I mean, even if we had a POV, we might be able to count how many potential airtime moments there are. We might have a good guess at length. We could maybe do the side-by-side of, like, a Steel Vengeance and maybe just get an idea of what it might feel like. We don't even have that to do right now.
And then Pantheon, when it was first announced, I was probably sleeping on it the most. But now having seen some of these elements as they're actually being put up, that one top hat outward bank thing that everyone keeps posting about, that looks pretty cool.
And then a zero-G stall type inversion right after it, which just was my favorite element this year. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that people like out of that ride.
Yeah, there's something to be said for Pantheon. And I don't think at the end of this, when we walk into the 2020, Ride Warrior Choice Awards for Best New Coaster, as voted upon by the Thrilling 32. I don't know if it's going to be super clear. I don't know how this is going to end up. I don't even know how this is going to end up with most anticipated either. This is
and again with Pantheon, we mentioned it looks like it's going to have those Terran style trains where you sit a little bit higher. The lap bars are very comfortable.
Yeah.
So maybe some of the intimate concerns of not having comfortable seats like on a Sky Rush. That might be going away, which might be a benefit of it. But I think all three of these rides potentially Thrilling 32 candidates for next year. So coming in third place with 14% of the vote was Orion at Kings Island. Was only third. Coming in second place with 18% of the vote was Pantheon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, and winning with 35% of the vote, the ride that the Ride Warriors are most anticipating in 2020 is Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens Tampa. So that tells you there's high expectations for that ride, and if it lives up to those expectations or even exceeds those expectations, Busch Gardens Tampa could definitely have a hit on their hands. Might push that park just a little bit, that extra notch higher that maybe really pushes that park into people's favor a little bit more. Maybe Busch Gardens Tampa is making an appearance in the top three parks list next year.
Well, I'll be honest with you, there might be a few people that haven't been to Busch Gardens in quite a few years. If you haven't been, I don't think there are tons of people flocking down for Tigress or for Cobra's Curse. I don't really see all these people flocking down there to go ride that stuff. But maybe Iron Gwazi is going to get a whole new slew of people down there, and people are going to be, woken up to what's going on down there in Tampa, which I think is a great thing. I also, unlike this year's Classic Coasters, not a whole lot of expectations going in. But like you said, all three of these rides, I think, have a very good shot of being in the Thrilling 32 for next year.
No, I think there's definitely a good chance. And I think there's a lot of rides beyond these three that even have a chance at the Thrilling 32. I think the Jersey Devil could certainly break in. I mean, Wonder Woman made the Thrilling 32 this year. So I don't think it's out of the question at all that we could see a Jersey Devil break in, especially being on the East Coast here in the States. I think there's a very good chance that that ride gets in. I wouldn't even rule out a ride like Texas Stingray, perhaps. I mean, that looks like a fine ride.
Especially in the wood coaster bracket where, the bottom, 31, 32 sometimes are a little bit okay. Anyone can be.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think there's opportunity to see 4 or maybe even 5 2020 rides in the Thrilling 32 next year, and another one over in Phantasialand, Fly. We saw that being built on our trip. I mean, that's one that's been highly anticipated. Who knows? I mean, Vekoma has sort of had this resurgence in recent years, so they make and those rides at Phantasialand, the theming is absolutely out of this world amazing, and if it's a half decent ride, that might pull it into favor with some people as well. So I think there's a lot to be excited for in 2020 for sure. There were a lot of different rides that got votes here, and we didn't even talk about Candemonium tonight, opening up right in my backyard at Hershey Park. I mean, it's a smaller B&M coaster, but a B&M coaster, it's 200 feet with a lot of airtime hills.
Hell, it might knock out
that's going to be pretty good. What's that?
Might knock out Silver Star.
Well, but hey, that's a pretty damn good ride. I mean, we could easily see 4, 5, 6 2020 rides in the Thrilling 32 next year, which we were not saying this a year ago.
No.
A year ago, we were saying that we may not even see one of the 2019 rides, and really all we saw was Untamed. That's all we saw. We didn't see Copperhead, Steel Curtain, Yukon Striker. Didn't see any of that in the Thrilling 32 this year. So I think there's certainly a lot to be excited for, but coming up in 2020 here. So we want to thank all of you as we do this time of year, every year. We thank you for your continued support of the Ride Warrior Choice Awards and the Coaster Poll and the Thrilling 32. We've already got over 100 brackets submitted again this year in the bracket challenge. You've got just under a week by the time you're watching this to finish those brackets. Please get them in by January 31st before midnight Eastern time, because 1 week, about a week from now on Saturday, February 1st, we will be revealing the first round results of the Thrilling 32 bracket challenge, and we will trim the fields from 32 down to the Sweet 16 in those 2 brackets, and some of those highly anticipated first round matchups that are being discussed all over the interwebs, all the discussions. There's some big ones, Andy. Outlaw Run Boulder Dash, Phoenix versus Coaster. There's quite a few that people have been talking about, and you're going to see some Thrilling 32 throwdowns here. You might have some already by the time you're watching this, but you're going to see some more talking about some different coasters in the Thrilling 32 this year. So we thank you guys for supporting all of it each and every year. This is certainly the most exciting time of year between the Ride Warrior Choice Awards, the Thrilling 32, and the Tournament of Terrible.
I know, we got everything going on all at once here. So we're updating the Tournament of Terrible brackets on Patreon right now. So definitely go vote there. We are firmly into the second round now of the Tournament of Terrible. So go cast your votes for what you think is the worst thing of 2019. So Danny, I think that wraps us up here for tonight. I am, of course, Andrew Barczyk from Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm Danny Miller from Binghamton, New York.
Right on, Ride Warriors.
Thank you, guys. See you next week.